Hey there. Welcome to episode 46 of Toy Talk with Mike and Chad. I'm Chad,
I'm Mike.
and a part of Mike's collection we're going to be talking about today is just some odds and ends that he's gotten recently.
Yeah, so we're here tonight. We just shot an episode about all my newest Transformers, and now we're going to shoot some miscellaneous stuff. Because we do still have some G.I. Joes we need to talk about. I've got Marvel Legends to talk about. Masters of the Universe I need to talk about. So, we're going to have separate episodes for all those in the near future. But every now and again, these miscellaneous things kind of pile up.
Yeah.
And we got to do some of these miscellaneous episodes. So, I'm going to start this one off by talking about we had another toy show in our neighborhood.
I missed that one. I was at a work convention.
Yeah, you missed the last couple, haven't you?
The one before that, I think I was in Cape Breton.
They gave me a little schedule. They have them planned for like the next year and a half.
Nice to know.
Yeah, so it's odd. We've talked about them on this channel before, but we live in a little suburb in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. It is not a big toy collecting community. At least I wouldn't describe it as such. But like we have a few comic shops, and there's obviously a collector community. But we never had toy shows or anything ever. And now we're having toy shows like every 2 months, and they're all happening just down the street from our house. Like it's not even happening in downtown Halifax. It's happening here in the suburbs. And so I've gone to most of them. You've gone to a couple. They're not big shows, and it's the same vendors there time after time. I almost debated on skipping this one because I'd already spent a lot of money on other things that weekend. I was like, I'm not really looking for anything at the toy show. A lot of it is vintage toys, and I'm not in the market for vintage toys, so I didn't want to go and just spend money for the sake of spending money. But, ultimately, I wasn't doing anything that afternoon. I do want to support the community, so I thought, you know what? I'll take out $100. I'll go down and I'll buy something anyway. So I went down and I did spend pretty much my whole $100. I think I spent $85 or so. But and it was a little bigger. I felt this time too. Like it was a lot of the same vendors, but they had some more stuff, which is nice because
You get tired of seeing the same stuff over and over.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like the guys that were there, like, are these even, like, really toy sellers, or are these just guys that are trying to sell off their collection? So they keep coming back time after time, and it gets less and less and less until it's... But I actually felt like maybe because these toy shows are happening with some frequency, that maybe they decided to re-up their inventory and stuff. So, yeah, there was a lot of stuff at this show that I haven't seen at the past shows. So, like... I probably could have spent a lot more money, but again, I'm not really hunting for vintage stuff. I did just recently redo my toy room here with a fresh paint job and some new shelving. And a lot of stuff I had on display, I've started to have to box up. So I'm conscious of that when I'm looking at stuff there. I'm like, ooh, I'd kind of like to buy that old thing. But then I'm just going to have to go home and put it in a box. And so it kind of...
defeats the purpose.
Yeah. Like I've talked on this channel before about how I have kind of a nostalgic love for Fisher-Price adventure people.
Yeah.
I have a few from my childhood, but I had a lot when I was a kid and I got rid of most of it. So there's a set, like I used to have a boat that had 2 divers and a shark and a couple like buoys and like it was a cool set. If I found that again, I would buy it. I also had an adventure person set with a deep sea diver with one of those old school, like diver helmets with a little like latch on the front.
Was that Jimmy?
I don't.
You like randomly named one and then you found out its real name.
No, I think that was we called them Mark and Tom, the pilots that flew the helicopter. I did find out his real name. I forget what it is now, but the diver with the old school dive helmet and the octopus and a little treasure chest. I would love to have that back again. So anyway, some guy had a bunch of adventure people there. He didn't have the sets that I was looking for, but he did have a set that was a boat. It was a smaller boat than the one I had, but it had 2 divers, a male and a female, with life jackets, and it had a dolphin instead of a shark. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And it was cheap, too. I think he was only asking like $20 for all that. But then I thought, it's an old 80s toy. It looks played with, like it was in used condition. I don't really have anywhere where I'm going to display that. So even though it was only $20, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to come home and throw it in a bin in my storage room. That's kind of like, what's even the point? So I didn't.
It's probably a good call then.
But there was lots of cool stuff there. And the stuff I'm going to show you, none of it's going to go on display. It's all going to go in storage. But, so the first one, well, actually, this one won't go in storage. I'm going to find somewhere for it. But I don't buy a whole lot of Funko Pops these days. I just have too many of them and they take up too much room. But I bought this Godzilla Funko Pop. So this is obviously one of the jumbo ones. He was $15.
Wow.
Which is cheaper than like nowadays Funko Pops are about $15 plus tax.
Yeah.
When you find them in stores. These guys here, when you go into like Walmart or something, these guys are like $60 plus tax. I got this exact Godzilla a few months ago.
The smaller one.
No, this big one.
Okay, yeah.
And I got it from Strange Adventures at their 50% off Dartmouth location. And I got them for $30, and I kind of thought, I love Godzilla. It's a cool looking figure. I think the Godzillas look better than most Funko Pops because the head actually looks proportionate. It's not like a big bobblehead looking thing. It looks good. So I saw the big one marked down from 60 to 30, and I was like, well, I can't pass up that for $30. Anyway, so now I found it again for $15. Now this one here they call Neon City Godzilla. So he is different. He's painted different than the one I already have. He's got this kind of like bright neon blue on his fins and on his eyes and stuff, like he's about to shoot his atomic breath.
And he was a Walmart exclusive.
Yeah. So again, for $15, I couldn't leave him behind.
No.
So pretty cool.
So
one of the I'm still working on this room. I still need to buy a couple of bookshelves. One of the shelves I think I'm going to put up in here is a Godzilla shelf. I have a lot of Godzilla toys, but they're kind of out in my other room. They don't really have their own home. So I think I'm going to get a Godzilla shelf, and maybe this guy and my other Funko Pop can maybe grace the top of it or something. So yeah, not bad.
Cool pickup.
Yep. These guys here were all $5 each. So, did you have GoBots when you were a kid?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Well, I don't know. You're 5 years younger than me. GoBots were only cool for about, 2 years.
Yeah. I like the Rock Lords.
Okay. Rock Lords, yeah. So, I had a handful of GoBots when I was a kid. They're often regarded as like the
inferior Transformers.
Yeah, like the redheaded stepchild of transforming toys because they were so simple. And you'll see that with these guys that I picked up today. Like literally to transform them, you just take a guy and you fold him in half, and he went from a robot to a train. That's like his whole transformation. But I really thought the GoBots were pretty charming and pretty cool. I think the reason it kind of gets the bad rap is because the cartoon was a lot shittier than the Transformers cartoon.
Was.
But I don't really remember the cartoon all that much, and I didn't put a whole lot of weight into it. I like the toys, and I think the toys hold up quite well. Now the thing is, I only kept a couple of them. My absolute favorites from when I was a kid. I have Psykill and Coptor. They're both in very bad shape. But there's a couple other ones that we had as kids that I wish I hadn't gotten rid of. So one of them is Water Walk. So this guy transforms into a seaplane. And again, $5, and all his pieces are there or whatever. He's in good shape. He's got like die-cast metal and everything. He's
rocking the sunglasses. Yep.
He's a cool figure. Now this guy's colored a little differently than the one I had when I was a kid. My guy had a red chest piece, and this guy's all white. But I think the GoBots had quite a few color variations available for most figures. So
I'll get you.
Yeah, he's cool, and again, for $5. Now, the thing is, if I had bought this guy 2 months ago, he would have probably made it into my Transformers display over here, which used to be located over here. But now that I have rearranged my room, I moved the Transformers to a new spot, and I had to pare it down a little bit, so all the like non-official Transformers got pulled out. So I did have a few GoBots in there before, and now they're not anymore. So yeah, now this guy, unfortunately, is just going to have to go straight into storage because he doesn't really have anywhere to go. But I am glad to get him. I think he's pretty fun.
I hate pulling out, but yeah.
This is a family show.
Sorry, man. I thought you marked it NFSW.
It's a family show, motherfucker. You stop that crudeness. Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny. My buddy Trevor, we went out for drinks the other day, and when I showed up at his house to pick him up, him and his 2 little kids, and I don't know how old they are. I want to say like, I don't know. He'll be mad at me for not knowing.
You should know that, right? Uncle Mike.
Let's say 6 and 4. I don't know.
Okay.
They're little guys. Anyway, they were watching our channel.
Oops.
And I was like, "Oh, they're watching my videos," and he's like, "Yeah, they've watched this one like 3 times." So they were like shy around me. They're like, Mike's here. Do you want to ask him a question?" And they were all like, "No." And he was like, "Yeah, they were wanting to know if they could come see your toys." So I don't know. They think I'm like a guy on TV or something.
Oh,
so.
Hey.
Anyway, so I apologize for the language. Earmuffs, you guys. Anyway, here's another GoBot I got. So this is Loco. Great name for a train guy.
That was an incredible motive.
Yeah.
Yeah? No, no sorry.
Yeah.
I love dad jokes, and the more dumb, the better.
I just don't know if motive applied to what we're...
Well, he said he was a train, right?
He's locomotive. Yeah, but anyway, I'll let you have it.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, this guy, my brother Doug actually had Loco when we were kids, but I love the simplicity of him because he's a really cool looking robot with that black and the silver. It's very striking, and then you fold him over and he's a train. That's it.
Choo-choo.
And he's very cool. In fact, I bought a third-party version of him. He's laying over there, but I bought like an expensive update of this character just because I liked him so much. So now it's kind of nice to have the original one in my collection as well.
Do you remember the cartoon Bots Master?
Bots Master.
It was in like the early 90s.
Doesn't ring a bell.
But I guess... Let's try that again. There we go.
Yeah.
But I guess...
He's going through puberty.
Yeah, about 27 years too late. It was like... Yeah, it was a weird cartoon. I don't know why I just thought of that, but it was kind of reminded me of the GoBots.
Well, in name alone, I guess I could see. And so this last one, now these I don't know if you'll have any history with, but when I was a kid, when Transformers came out and GoBots came out, they were like a revelation, and everybody in the world was trying to get in on the transforming robot gimmick. So there was transforming robots everywhere. When I say we, I mean me and my brother Doug, we had a couple of Transformers from a line called Select Converters. And
vaguely.
So anyway, I got this guy at the toy show for $5. This is a Select Converter Scorpion. I think his name is Scorpius or something. But you can clearly tell how he transforms into a scorpion. Yeah. All of his scorpion legs are just kind of dangling off the back of him. His arms go from arms to claws. You just have to flip them around. But so my brother Doug had this guy when we were kids, and I had a gray spider named Tarantulas. And I got rid of it, and I always regretted it. I'm like, man, that Tarantulas guy was really cool. And we didn't even remember what they were called. Yeah. We just knew they weren't Transformers. We're like, I don't know what that spider guy was called. And then one day, Doug... I can't remember if it was for my birthday or Christmas or something. Doug got the spider guy for me off of eBay. So I have a Tarantulas in my collection now. And I actually have this guy too. But he's all broken. I have him like in pieces. So when I saw this guy and he's like complete for $5, I was like,
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, this guy I just kind of have a nostalgic childhood attachment to. And yeah, he's a nice looking figure. Like a purple scorpion. He's a good size. He's got some of that like little... vac metal on him and everything. He's cool. The stickers are in good shape and everything.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Well, they had weird ones. Again, I'm pretty sure it's the same line, but Select Converter. So we've got these bug guys, but then they had a line of guys that turned into like VLTs and like cash registers and stuff, and we had a couple of those as well. And I wish I had all those stuff still, but anyway. So those are my transforming robots. My last two pickups from the toy show is my buddy Glenn was there. Who he's one of those guys that's a vendor at every one of these toy shows. He pretty much sells G.I. Joes. He's got some other odds and ends too, but he's mostly a G.I. Joe guy. So he always has bins of old vintage G.I. Joes. And I'm trying to complete my G.I. Joe collection, but very passively. Because when I was a kid...
You and your brother Doug.
I sound like a broken record, but yeah, me and my brother Doug, we shared a bedroom. We grew up collecting everything together. So we kind of, when G.I. Joes came out, and on the back of the package there was the checklist.
Yeah.
As soon as we got one toy, because there was no internet, there was no announcement. One day we would just go into the store and there'd be a new set of G.I. Joes. So we'd get one each. We'd go home and we'd do pixies. Like, who are we going to get? And over the course of the year, we'd get all those Joes.
And because there was no internet, it made the thrill of the hunt more exciting. Can you imagine kids today with no internet?
No.
No?
And yet I can, because that's how my childhood was.
Yeah, exactly.
But, so yeah. We split our G.I. Joe collections down the middle, which was great at the time, because collectively we had, like, the entire G.I. Joe collection. From, like, the first year, 1982, right up till, like, 1989, we had all the figures. But then when me and Doug grew up and moved apart, half my collection was missing.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've slowly been kind of, when I see a figure that Doug had as a kid that I don't have, I buy it up. And I've gotten a good chunk of them, but there's still a few holes in my collection. So when I see somebody like Glenn selling like vintage Joes, I'm like, I'm not looking to pay top dollar. I'm looking for like $5 G.I. Joes. Yeah. I don't care if their thumbs are broken. I don't care if they have their guns. I just want to say I have them, because these vintage G.I. Joes, they go in a bin as soon as they go home. They're not on display. So I went through his bin, and I found this guy. Do you know that figure?
Yes. I can't remember his name.
His name is Cobra Commander. That is Cobra Commander version 4, I believe. He came out in 1991. So that is right after me and Doug stopped. Because the last G.I. Joes we ever got were from the 1990 series.
Yeah.
So like I said, we right up to 1989, we collected the entire series. And then I don't know what happened from 1989 to 1990, but we made a decision that we were just kind of done. So we both bought one 1990 figure. I bought Rampart, he bought Undertow, and then that was it. Those were our last G.I. Joes. Now, some of these guys, my little brother, Brian, continued to collect G.I. Joe for a little while after we got out of it. And I don't think he had this Cobra Commander, but I was familiar with it.
So, later in the line, so like the 1991 ones, I think I was still collecting them at this point. These are the ones where the sort of O-ring started improving, right? For durability.
I don't know. Like, he feels pretty good.
Like like even the arm crunch, like there's in the legs, there's a little bit of resistance there.
Yeah,
for something.
I don't know,
2 years old.
I don't recall ever hearing about that on any like G.I. Joe forums or anything like that. Maybe it's true, but I have very few G.I. Joes from the 90s. Most of my collection ends at 89. But even still, like, I started collecting G.I. Joe again in the early 2000s when they were still using O-rings.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys have even broken since. So I don't know that they necessarily improved upon the original design. But anyway, this... I kind of think this is an ugly Cobra Commander design, but only because I like what had come before. If you just look at this in a vacuum, it's kind of cool. Like, I like that he's got that... You can sort of see his face under the translucent... And it's not intended to come off, but you can actually peel this off. And he's got a face underneath. But my understanding is that it's glued to the face. So by you peeling it off, he's gonna look kind of mangled under there. Like you were never really meant to see it. But it's not a bad figure, really. So, yeah. This is my first time ever owning this guy. And he's another guy I kind of check off my list.
Yeah.
Because not only am I trying to fill the holes in my collection that, like... were left by Doug's collection, but the vintage collection ended in 1994. So the fact that I had so many of them right up till 89, I figure like, yeah, I'll buy any of the 90s figures when I see them, and I'd like to finish the whole collection. So I pulled this guy out. He was the only one that I saw that interested me. So I said to Glenn, I was like, yeah, I'll just take this Cobra Commander off your hands. And then, I don't know why he necessarily thought I would go for it. But he was like, there's a keel haul in there, you know? And I was like, oh, is there? And I went back in and he had keel haul for $30. This is where I'm like, I am not in the market for $30 vintage G.I. Joes. And I picked them up and I saw that $30 sticker on them. I was like, ooh. And he was like, if you buy them, I'll throw in the Cobra Commander. And I was like, all right. So he's basically $25. And I pulled the trigger. I got him. Now, he is in nice shape. He's got his thumbs. He's got his crotch. He's nice and stiff, too.
Sorry, you said he was nice and stiff after you said he's got his crotch, so I'm like...
Yeah. Family-friendly show.
Family-friendly show.
Trevor's kids are watching.
Sorry, kids.
So are you familiar with him at all?
Vaguely. He's the guy that I thought looked like Tom Selleck.
So he came out in 1985. So he is one of the guys that was out during mine and Doug's prime collecting. But we never had him because you could only get him if you bought the aircraft carrier. He is the admiral that comes with the giant 6-foot aircraft carrier that only rich kids had, because the thing was probably like $100 back in 1985, which would be like a $250, $300 toy now. So I never had keel haul, and I always knew that if I was ever going to add keel haul to my collection, I would have to pay, a pretty penny, because he's not going to show up in too many $5 bins. And what are you doing with him right now?
Taking a picture.
Okay.
No, I have a funny idea. Anyways, well, I'll tell you about that after.
So, yeah, he's a macho guy. He does kind of look like Tom Selleck. He's got his shirt unbuttoned right down to his chest hair, showing off his dog tags and stuff. But it's a nice figure because G.I. Joe, even though I like some of the outlandish elements, I do appreciate the kind of real-world military guys. He looks like a real-world guy, and he's in good shape. And, yeah, the fact that I finally own a keel haul, it's not like I was dying to get him, because I don't think he's particularly awesome or anything. He is kind of average, but I just never really thought I would own this guy. It's still a little surreal to me, especially that I almost missed him. Again, I don't know why Glenn felt the need to tell me, you missed, there's a keel haul in there. I was like, oh, was there? And then I grabbed him. So, anyway, thank you, Glenn, for the heads up. I think $30, $25 is totally fair for him, considering what I would have had to pay
on the secondhand market.
Yeah, so. And I think he's complete. He doesn't have any accessories with him. Cobra Commander doesn't either. But I'm sure Cobra Commander came with a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, these guys always came with missile launchers and a bunch of oversized guns and stuff. So he's got nothing. But a lot of the vehicle drivers didn't even come with a gun. So this is probably all that he had. At most, he's probably missing a pistol or something. So anyway, I think he's a pretty good haul.
So that would be good keel haul.
There you go. I'll give you that one. That's much better than the last deck. All right. So that was my toy show. I've got a couple other randos. I got a bunch of stuff from Big Bad Toy Store a little while ago. Probably the biggest part of it was my Rocketeer figures. I ordered a whole bunch of them, but I did a whole video on my Rocketeer figures
watch it.
Just a couple of days ago. So go on find it on my channel. They're really cool. But one of the other random things in my box from Big Bad Toy Store was Dr. Henry Jones Sr. Yeah, so this is... I've been buying these Indiana Jones figures for a couple of months now, and I maybe should have just held on to them and did a whole episode on all the Indiana Jones, but instead I've been showing off one every time we do one of these random episodes.
Well, in fairness, I don't think he thought you were going to collect them as much as you did, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't really know how many I was going to buy. And I started off with Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then I got older Indiana Jones, and I got Professor Indiana Jones, and then I got Tote, the Nazi villain from... And now here I am getting his father, as played by Sean Connery in The Last Crusade. And, yeah. He's cool. He looks like him.
Knock, knock.
Who is there?
Dishes.
Dishes who?
Dishes Sean Connery. I am just so tired.
I need to start getting one of those little soundboards so I can do like little rim shots and stuff.
Yeah. No, he is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have too much to say about him. I mean, he has the likeness.
He came with a bunch of cool shit that you would want him to come with. So he's got his hat, which is removable. He's got his eyeglasses, which are removable, which surprisingly still work pretty good. I find removable eyeglasses is sometimes a bad idea. It might be better just to make them part of the sculpt because they can look like goggles or something. No, but I think they work pretty well.
That really annoys me. Like, his briefcase doesn't stay in his hand.
Yeah, his briefcase looks good, but it's not so much problem with the briefcase. It's like his fingers aren't curled enough to really hold it. And so then he's got the umbrella, which is an accessory he used in the movie to scare the ducks. Yep. And they flew into the Nazi airplane or whatever. And then just hold them for a sec. So then he's got some other stuff here, which you guys won't be able to see, but I'll probably do an insert. But he's got so this little piece here. I think this was something he held up to dodge a bullet or something at one point. And then he's got the Holy Grail. Not just the actual Grail, but also the fake Grail. Because, again, spoiler alert, at the end of Last Crusade, they find the temple where the Holy Grail is, and there's all these cups. And the bad guy picks up this bejeweled gold cup, thinking this must be the cup Jesus would drink of. Yeah, he chose poorly, I think is the line. And so then Indiana Jones has to pick the cup, and he picks this little rusty, humble-looking cup. Because that's the kind of cup Jesus would use. So he comes with both of those. He also comes with his little diary. And then he comes with a little flaming dish or whatever. So anyway, some cool little junk.
Yeah, he's cool. They're kind of growing on me.
It's
Indiana Jones ones.
Well, I love Indiana Jones. The movies are great. And as a kid, I wanted toys of them, but he's kind of a one-man show.
Yeah.
Did I need a toy of his old man father when I was a kid? Not really. And he doesn't really have a memorable villain. It's not like he has an arch nemesis. So I kind of understand why there weren't Indiana Jones toys. If I had an Indiana Jones when I was a kid, I probably would have just used him with my, G.I. Joes or something. But now that I'm, as an adult collector, it's a brand that I feel should be represented in my collection. And the fact that these guys are just going to go on display anyway, I don't really need to worry about, how am I going to play with this old man figure? I'm not. I'm just going to display him on my shelf. And he looks good. And, it's just cool to have these guys in my collection. And I just dropped a suitcase again. Where'd that go? Gone forever.
Never to be found again.
Yeah. Okay, and so a couple of other figures. These are the last two I guess I would qualify as miscellaneous. I just got these guys the other day. So I am a fan, or I was a fan, I don't know, of Boss Fight Studios.
Yeah.
So this is a team of sculptors and stuff. They worked for a lot of my favorite toy companies. They worked on a lot of G.I. Joe figures and stuff like that. And then about 10 years ago, they left and started their own company. So rather than just sculpting for Hasbro and Mattel, they said, we're going to start our own line of toys. And they started doing these 3 3/4 inch figures called Vitruvian Hacks. And they started off doing Greek mythology figures, which I collected and I loved them. And then they went on to more fantasy, orcs and stuff, which I'm not really into. So that's kind of when I fell off. And I kind of always hoped they would do something, another brand that interested me. But they just kept doing stuff that I didn't care about. Now they're doing new versions of Strawberry Shortcake. They did Bucky O'Hare. So they did new figures of those. They did The Little Prince. They did, Max and, I don't know, it was a rabbit and a dog detectives or something. Sam and Max or something.
Max, yeah, something like that.
Anyway, so they keep doing all these brands and licensing where I'm just oh man, I'm sure they're nice quality figures, but they're just nothing I'm interested in, and I want to be able to support Boss Fight because I know they make excellent quality figures. And so they have this other line that they've started that's kind of a spin-off of their Vitruvian hacks called Hero Hacks.
Yeah.
And it's all these like kind of public domain or like old heroes. So they've done Flash Gordon, Zorro, and the Phantom. Now I bought one of their Phantom figures and I bought two of their Zorro figures. One of them just a standalone figure and one of them in a deluxe pack with a horse. And they're really cool. Kind of the problem with them is now though is like that 3 3/4 inch scale is just, I've kind of moved on from it. Like my G.I. Joes are 6 inches now. All my Marvel figures are 6 inches. I used to collect 3 3/4 inch Joes and 3 3/4 inch Marvel, but Hasbro kind of moved on from that. So now to buy a 3 3/4 inch figure, it just feels a little bit like, where does this go in my collection? It feels a little, I don't know, antiquated. So they put out the Zorro figures, which were based on, I don't think anything really in particular. They were just kind of a generic Zorro, you know. And then more recently, they did Zorro from the Antonio Banderas movie from the 90s. Yeah. And they also did his girlfriend, Elena Montero, as played by, what's her face? By my blanking on Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes.
And I was a big fan. Like, I like Zorro as a concept. I read the Zorro comic books and everything. So I liked that first movie, The Mask of Zorro. I thought it was a ton of fun. And I was really excited about it when it came out. That's the kind of movie, again, like Indiana Jones. I kind of would have loved to have figures at the time. Now it's 30 years too late. Do I still need these? And I guess the answer is yes, I still need them. So they put out these Hero Hacks figures of Antonio Banderas and of Catherine Zeta-Jones. I didn't pull the trigger on them right away. I was kind of waiting to see if maybe I could get them on sale down the road. Anyway, my local comic shop got them in. They were selling them for $50.
Oof.
Yeah, $50 for a 3 3/4 inch. And there's nothing really deluxe about them. They come with a handful of accessories, but not a lot. And I was like, I can't do $50 Canadian. It's too much. So then last weekend, my comic shop had a 25% off toys sale. And I actually went there with the intent to buy the new NECA Creature from the Black Lagoon figure. But then I got there and I saw those Zorro figures that I'd passed on. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot these were here. I'm like, do I buy both, like the Zorro figures and Creature? Because that was getting pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, do I buy maybe just Zorro and the Creature and I leave the girlfriend behind? Ultimately, I decided to buy the Zorros and I left the Creature. So that was tough to do, but
poor guy.
I'll probably go back for him eventually. So they come in some very nice, like, collector style packaging, which I'll cut in and insert so you can see them. But this is the same style packaging that all the Vitruvian hacks come in. So you've got some nice original artwork on the front, a little kind of file card on the back. But one of the things I really appreciate is the card just slides out like this.
Yeah, so
and
you're not destroying the package.
You're not destroying the packaging, and then you can slide the card back in. So this way you can take the toy out, you can play with it, you can take some pictures of it. Then you can put it back in here and still pin it up on your wall, and nobody's the wiser. Like, you haven't destroyed it. Like so many other figures, you have to cut the plastic bubble off to get to the figure. So I've always appreciated how they did that. So here are the figures. So here is Zorro. And I'll have to do an insert because I know you guys can't see this at all when I hold it up. But it really blows my mind how good of a figure they're able to make at this like little 4-inch scale, essentially. Like, he looks really good. They pose really well. He's got a lot of articulation. The hat has got a lot of fine detail. He's got the little amulet. He's got a sword that can be kind of sheathed on his belt. He's got a lasso that you can hang off his belt.
I didn't realize that was his name. Because I was young when I watched Zorro.
Yeah. Well, that movie, they kind of did that whole thing where Anthony Hopkins played the original Zorro.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was kind of a new generation of Zorro. But like, so he's got a whip. So here's a bag of all the accessories. He's got a whip that he can like lash out with. He's also got a coiled up version that clips on his belt. His hat comes off. Like, this is his alternate head, his unmasked head. And look how good that likeness is to Antonio Banderas at that size. Like, it's such a small little head, but it looks really...
that's really nice sculpt.
Yeah, they come with display bases, which is really nice. So it says, like, the hero hacks on the base. I really am impressed with these figures. So this is my third Zorro now from Boss Fight. Do I need any more? Because they're still making them. Probably not. Like, I think this probably scratches that itch. But if they decide to start making them in the 6-inch scale, then I might have to buy them all over
Danger.
again. Yeah, so very cool. Now, the other figure, so the Catherine Zeta-Jones. So she came with like a sword and a pistol. She has got a soft goods skirt. So
that's cool.
Now the likeness on her is not as good.
She's missing a hand?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry to bring that up.
Now, you're probably jumping the gun a little bit, but I was going to talk about that in a sec. So her face, I don't think her likeness is as good.
No, that looks terrible.
I don't think it looks terrible, but it doesn't look like Catherine Zeta-Jones. And I'm guessing maybe she hasn't signed off on her likeness. Like, the fact that they were able to capture Antonio Banderas so well, and then her face doesn't look right, I'm thinking that, yeah, maybe they're not allowed to reproduce her.
Yeah, I like the soft goods skirt, dress, whatever.
Yep, so the lower half of her has a soft goods skirt. It works well. The figure looks good, the gun, the sword, and everything. Now, I'm reluctant to kind of tell this story, because I hate to sound like I'm shitting on... I don't want to be that guy, but this channel is so small, it's not like I'm going to affect anything. As soon as I took her out of the package and I moved her arm up, her arm snapped. I didn't do anything to it. She was I had her out of the package for 30 seconds and her arm snapped. And I was like, come on, man. It's this figure was not cheap. Even at the 25% discount. Yeah. She still cost me $35 plus tax for a little teeny figure, and to get her home and have her arm snap right off snapped at the elbow, was a huge bummer.
But the good news,
yeah. So I don't want to detract from the quality of Boss Fight figures, because I have probably close to 100 of their Vitruvian Hacks figures. I love them. Especially at this scale, they pack in so much detail and articulation and everything. They're great. So this seemed to be kind of a one-off. And I was like, do I try and call my comic shop and ask them to do right by me? And I'm like, not that they wouldn't. I have a good relationship with my comic shop, but then I know they'd be taking the hit probably. I doubt they could return it to the retailer. So I thought I would take a chance and email Boss Fight Studios. And I said, hey guys, I just bought your toy from my local comic shop, and it broke right out of the box. And they said, can you send us a picture? I did, and then they said, your replacement's in the mail. So I don't know if they're going to send me the whole new figure, or if they're just going to send me an arm to replace the one that broke. But either way, I don't want to say no questions asked, because I did ask for the picture, but they were
on it.
Super cool. They had it in the mail that day. So within 24 hours of this arm breaking, there was a new replacement in the mail for me. So not only am I reluctant to tell this story because I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on Boss Fight, but I feel when companies do stuff like that, they don't necessarily love it when you broadcast it, because I don't want everybody being like, oh, my figure broke, and everybody trying to ask them for new figures. But again, nobody watches this channel, so I feel safe saying it. That, just great customer service from them. Very much appreciated. And
that's why you should support the little guys.
Yeah, and I think so these are great. The likeness, not so great on her. I'm guessing for reasons, but maybe they just botched it. I don't know, but I have to think there has reasons for it, because the Antonio Banderas is incredible.
Did she come with an alternate head?
No.
Okay.
And she wouldn't really. She doesn't really have a reason to.
No, I know, but I would have just been curious if it might have resembled her more, or again, it was nope.
Yeah, so that's that. That's in this video, I've got Indiana Jones's dad and Zorro's girlfriend. Essential action figures, to be sure. Okay, so that pretty much covers all my miscellaneous stuff. We finished with Time to Kill. We can wrap this up. Do you have anything else I know I kind of monopolized these 2 episodes tonight because
I didn't have anything to.
You didn't have anything new, but is there anything else you want to talk about?
What are your thoughts on that Ninja Turtles Masters of the Universe mashup?
Yeah, so that news just came out yesterday for us. It'll probably have been a week or 2 by the time you guys see this. But they've announced they're doing a Ninja Turtles Masters of the Universe Origins mashup collection. I think they should. Did you just see the pictures I sent you, or did you see the other ones?
I looked at the other ones afterwards.
So yeah, I think they showed 5 or 6 figures.
Yeah.
And they're interesting because they're not... Like, it's similar, I guess, to... They did a line called Masters of the WWE Universe, which I collected. Now, I'm not a big wrestling fan. I'm a fan of, like, wrestling. I was a fan when I was a little kid. So, like, the 80s wrestlers like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man. So there was something... I thought these figures were kind of silly and cheesy, but there was something kind of appealing about them. You get a Macho Man Randy Savage, except he's wearing, like, Man-at-Arms' armor. It was kind of a weird little mashup like that. So with the Turtles... some of them are kind of mashups, but some of them just seem to be kind of like original creations.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that Krang is. Like, it's a...
That's really weird.
It looks like kind of a green ogre with, like, Krang in his chest. So it's not really based off of a pre-existing figure, I don't think. Same as there's, like, a He-Man with purple skin and, like, long hair. And I don't think that's really any He-Man character or any real Turtle character. It's just... So I'm not sure how it falls under that umbrella. I'm sure maybe there's going to be little mini comics that explain, like, oh, He-Man fell in the mutagen and this is what happened. And I kind of dig that, actually, that they're not just saying, here's Leonardo wearing Man-at-Arms' armor. Like, I kind of like if they're kind of making something original out of it. I don't know how deep I'll go. It might depend on when I actually see them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need the Ninja Turtles dressed like He-Man. I think they might look a little weird in my collection. But I actually kind of dig the Krang, the Trap Jaw, who's got like a mouser for a claw. That's kind of cool. So yeah, I think they're kind of fun.
Yeah, they look pretty cool. I don't know how far I would go into it. Same idea. I was looking at picking up a couple different Loyal Subjects characters where I now have some of the turtle ones. And I was in Walmart the other day and saw the April O'Neil. That character was hideous.
Yeah, I saw that figure too.
That is a terrible, terrible likeness.
Yeah. Not great.
Not cool. I also managed to get a Chuckles.
Oh yeah, so G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe put them back. Well, G.I. Joe put them back up. Hasbro Pulse put him back up for pre-order, which was exciting because I missed the last 2 attempts.
Yeah, so back in the summer, it was at Joe Fest, I think. It was an exclusive. If you were at Joe Fest, you could purchase a ticket, which would allow you to buy it online later or something stupid.
Yeah.
And then there was a few limited edition amount that were available to people that weren't at the convention. And it was limited 2 per customer. So I got online and I was able to buy 2. I wish I could have bought you one, but I had to buy one for my brother. But yeah, luckily I was happy to go on Pulse today. I saw that it was listed as, pre-order and not out of stock. So I gave you a heads up.
Yeah, and within like 2 minutes, fucking done.
Nice.
Sorry, earmuffs, kids. Sorry.
I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but the Cobra airship from Super 7. Have you seen that?
I did.
I don't know how it's going to go. I was a little worried.
You actually sent it to me.
Yeah, okay, so I told you about it. So I think it was at Joe Fest, or it was at one of the conventions, maybe San Diego. Super 7 was there, and they had their G.I. Joe reaction figures on display. Now, it's not uncommon for vendors to go and set up a really elaborate display. It's not necessarily stuff they're selling, but, like... Maybe if they did a Marvel display, they'll put like skyscrapers falling over and cars flipped over to make like a scene. Yeah. It's not like they're going to sell those cars in those buildings. So they had a Cobra airship in their display. And people were like, what is that? And we didn't know if it was just like a one-off thing they had made to make their display elaborate. But then they later revealed, no, we are going to be producing these as essentially like a Kickstarter, like a crowd-funded. And... about 2 weeks ago now, they said, okay, here's the price, here's what it looks like, here's all the features. let's go.
No, thank you.
And so it launched, and they're not they have to hit their minimum funding goal.
Yeah, to make a profit off it,
which is 4,000. And then they say if we hit 5,000, we'll give you some extra bonuses. If we hit 6,000, we'll give you a couple more bonuses. This thing came out of the gate with like just a sputter. It was like, because usually these things like the Hiss tank and the Dragonfly helicopter, all the hardcore fans dive at it right away, and then you hit like a lull in the middle, and then everybody panics: are they going to get there or not? This one, after like the first 3 days, was like barely at 200 people backing it, and so that was not a good sign. But I have been following it, and as of today, it just went over 1,000, and there's still 60 days left in the campaign, like 58 or something.
Yeah.
So, if it got to 1,000, I think the closer it gets, there will be some of those people that were like spectators that were sitting back and be like, okay, well now they're pretty close. Maybe now I'll do it.
Plus, if they tease incentives.
Well, see, the frustrating thing about something like this is like the incentives seem like out of reach.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Marvel did the Ghost Rider car.
Yeah.
And so they were asking too much for the Ghost Rider car. And the problem is probably more people wanted the stretch goals than the car. So like I forget what they were asking for, but let's say $400 to get the car and the Ghost Rider figure. And then if they got 5,000 people, then you got a Goblin Queen. And if you get to 6,000 people, you got to Mephisto, which everybody really wants. So everybody wants the Goblin Queen and Mephisto, but nobody wants the car. So when the car was kind of like hovering, like not even really close, people were like, you know what? Even if I do throw in my $400, it might just get the car made. I'm not going to get the other things I wanted. So I feel Super 7 as well. Like they promised all this stuff at these other tiers, but people are looking at it, they're like, this is barely going to scrape by the finish line. I'm not going to get those extra bonus things. And so it does hurt the incentive a little bit. I kind of wish Super 7, and who knows, maybe they will. If they get close and the deadline is looming, maybe they'll say, you know what, we're going to throw in those first 2 tiers for free. So if they do that, that might get them over the hump. Like, I want it to succeed because I want that thing to exist. Like, it's incredible. That's the kind of thing as a kid I would have loved. Like, we talked, I think, was it this episode? Yeah, this episode about the aircraft carrier.
Yes.
I didn't have it as a kid, and I wasn't sad about that. Like, sure, it was cool, but it was 6 feet long. Like, it was as big as my bed. Like, people that had it, like, it took up their whole bedroom. And I just don't think the aircraft carrier is a particularly cool thing. Like, sure, you can fight on it, but you can fight on a coffee table. Like, you can land your planes on it. Like, it just doesn't do enough to really interest me. And with headquarters and vehicles, a lot of times that's how I feel about it. I want something that's got a little bit more personality, which is why, like, Snake Mountain here, this was a Super 7 crowdfunder thing. And the fact that it's got a face, like, sure, it's a mountain, it's a headquarters, but it's got this face on it. It makes it feel like a character. And the Cobra airship, the fact that it's got this big Cobra face on it, it seems so much more interesting than an aircraft carrier or something like that. It's cool.
But that price tag, though.
Yeah, so they're asking $500 US.
There's going to be like $750 Canadian.
Yeah, $750 Canadian plus $100 Canadian shipping, I'm sure. So, like, you're talking, we're getting close to $1,000. The thing's as big, if not maybe a little bit bigger than the Millennium Falcon. And if you had the Millennium Falcon when you were a kid, like, some of the panels came off to give you access to it, but not the whole thing. This one, the whole roof kind of comes off in panels, and you have access to the bridge, you have access to the jail, you have access to, like, the computer room. There's, like, a lot going on, and it looks super cool. But where it is this big round thing, like, if I bought it, like, you kind of
can't put it on the shelf.
You need, like, a big coffee table in the center of the room to put it on. And you could arguably say, well, I'll hang it from wires from the ceiling, but then you're just looking at the bottom of it, and you wouldn't get to enjoy all that space that you can play with. So I feel like it's for a very specific person, Because if I had it as a kid, I would have loved it because when I'm not playing with it, it would go under the bed and I wouldn't need to look at it. But I'd play with it every weekend. I'd haul it out and I'd be in there and I'd be playing with it. But as an adult collector, it's like, well, I don't want to tuck it away until I'm using it because I never use it for anything. I need it out to display and enjoy, and it's just too damn big to display and enjoy. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I hope it backs. Like, because maybe someday I'll win the lottery. And I'll go on eBay and I'll buy one for $1,000 or whatever they're selling it for on the secondary market, and I can have one in a room of its own. But so I hope it gets made. But yeah, I definitely can't afford it, and even if I could afford it, I can't put it anywhere. So that's my thoughts on that. Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, that was some toy talk.
That was some toy talk with Mike and Chad.
So if you enjoyed this, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave us comments below, and we'll be back soon with another episode. Ciao.
Keep collecting. Wasn't sure what I was going to say there.
Well, you pulled it out at the end with your classic keep collecting.